بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وبعد. يقول جل وعلا في كتابه المجيد وفرقانه الحميد: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لا تظلمون ولا تظلمون. صدق الله العظيم. So maybe let's develop on the introductory comments of Brother Abdullah and then progress into the assigned topic on identifying a story, a tale, a narrative from the Quran. So it's a responsibility as Muslims that we need to dispel the myth. We need to put an end to the stereo. And of course, man is actively doing that in the political sphere. But coupled with that, we also as believers need to exhibit and display and manifest the real, the absolute, and the pristine teachings. And that's one of the most effective ways in which we can undo the negative and the stereo and the propaganda. So subhanallah, the Quran is so amazing, and the lessons deduced from one tale are so profound. Imam Bukhari rahimahullah in his authentic compilation has repeated many ahadith, yet he makes a claim that he hasn't repeated one hadith. And it's basic, it's known. Any scholar of hadith, any student of hadith would know this here. So there's many ahadith narrated and repeated, though his claim stands that he hasn't repeated. And the reconciliation between the reality and the claim is that he brings the same hadith with a different deduction. So the Tarjumatul Bab, as is customary with students of knowledge, you would know, he creates a heading, then he brings the hadith on wudu. And then he brings that same hadith, which then discusses something beyond wudu at a later stage. So effectively, the same hadith with different deductions. So as Brother Abdullah was just introducing and setting the tone, I had this reflection on the tale and the story of Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, which we all know. But it's so rich, it's so voluminous, it's so profound. The lessons are so so many. So when the minister's wife was accused, or people spoke about her infatuation over Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, which was real, because the Quran speaks about this here. وَقَالَ نِسْوَةٌ فِي الْمَدِينَةِ امْرَأَةُ الْعَزِيزِ تُرَاوِدُ فَتَاهَا عَنْ نَفْسِهِ قَدْ شَغَفَهَا حُبًّا أي قَدْ دَخَلَ حُبُّهُ فِي شِغَافِ قَلْبِهَا. That this woman, the minister's wife, is seduced, she's infatuated. So how did she counter the narrative? How did she deal with this? So here's a woman of prominence. This is the circulation. This is the topic. This is gaining momentum in the. Hey, you heard? Aapne suna? Pata chala? Haan, ye baatein chal rahi hai. Har koi bolta hai. This is the chit chat. This is the gossip. So she decided to prepare a lavish spread, a banquet, as the Quran says. Falamma, when sami'at, she heard, bimakrihinna, regarding their plots and what people were making their comments. Arsalat ilayhin, she invited everyone. وَأَعْتَدَتْ لَهُنَّ مُتَّكَأً, and she prepared a lavish spread. So muttaka'a in Arabic means a place, like you have a majlis, you recline, you relax, sit, enjoy, spend the afternoon with us, spend the evening with us, make it a weekend, enjoy. Muttaka'a. وَآتَتْ كُلَّ وَاحِدَةٍ مِّنْهُنَّ سِكِّينًا. And in terms of the meal that she had prepared, some fruit, which is kind of implied because of the context of the verse. So then she gave them each one a basic, a kitchen knife, which you're going to use to cut or slit or split the fruit. So to give the verbatim translation, wa'atat, she gave, kulla, each one, wahida, each one, minhunna, from amongst them, sikina, a knife. So they eating, they relaxing, they chilling, they socializing, and they eating along, and it's a lavish spread, and they indulging, and it's scrumptious, and it's tantalizing. And then she said, Yusuf, just come here. And Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, innocent to her plan and her intention, he came out. And as he came out, فَلَمَّا رَأَيْنَهُ, the words of the Quran, when they seen him, أَكْبَرْنَهُ, they magnified him. وَقَطَّعْنَ أَيْدِيَهُنْ, they were mesmerized. They were spellbound. Urdu mein ne kehte, hawas bakhta ho gaya. You lose your balance. They were like dazzled. Oh my word, this is fall dead gorgeous. This is indescribable. وَقَطَّعْنَا أَيْدِيَهُنْ, and the Quran says they went cutting deeper and deeper. You might think outwardly, apparently, supposedly, did this literally happen? You would find a person, he's on his phone, and he's in an airport, and he's walking. He gets to an elevator. He walks in the opposite way. The elevator is coming down, he's going up. Person is so consumed. He's walking off a flight. And how often this happens? Right? Person is so consumed by the moment that he becomes oblivious of the surroundings. So they were mesmerized. The authentic hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that beauty in this world that every person has from the beginning of time till the end, half of that was given exclusively to Yusuf alayhi salam. And every other person who has any degree of beauty from the beginning of the world till the end has a fraction and a portion of the other half, while the other half was exclusively given to Yusuf alayhi salam. So where can you begin to imagine the kind of beauty that Allah had endowed him with? So what was the strategy of this woman? She didn't counter the narrative by retorting in a like manner. She exposed them to the beauty in Yusuf. And as believers, we need to expose the world to the beauty of Islam. And you see it in the media. It speaks for itself. The number of sisters that have come into hijab, who've taken the shahada and have realized the world is tired of a life of absolute, total, unending indulgence. Because it's against the grain. It's not in keeping with the system of Allah. Nor is it possible and practical and pragmatic to sustain a life where you divorce yourself in totality from the needs and the necessities and the moderate comforts of this world. So some would go to that extreme. It's just like indulge. It's just eat. It's just enjoy. It's just casino. It's just womanize. It's just pop. It's just all about sheer indulgence. ذَرْهُمْ يَأْكُلُوا وَيَتَمَتَّعُوا وَيُلْهِهِمُ الْأَمَلِ. As the Quran says, they eat, they enjoy, they party, they rave. That's it. And then there are others that say, you know what? Completely cut yourself out. Celibacy. There is no marriage. What's the English proverb? Marriage has thorns in it, but celibacy has no roses. Marriage has thorns in it. It's not a bed of roses, there's thorns. But celibacy, being single, has no roses. The Quran speaks about this. وَرَهْبَانِيَّةً. And those who opted for monasticism, for isolation, ibtada'uha, they innovated it. مَا كَتَبْنَاهَا عَلَيْهِمْ. We did not ordain it upon them. فَمَا رَعُوهَا حَقَّ رِعَايَتِهَا. So they could not sustain it because it's against the human anatomy. As humans, we are social creatures. We turn to each other. We have needs. We have necessities. And that's the beauty of Islam. It doesn't come to deny you any need. It comes to regulate it. Listen, you have to eat. You have to work. You need to have a family. That's intrinsic to your makeup. And the beauty of Islam is the very Allah who created us legislated our deen. So there is no disparity, no dichotomy, no inconsistency between our anatomy and the legislation of Islam. Because the same being who designed you legislated your laws. So it fits like a glove into a hand. And if perchance you are having difficulty to process any aspect of the deen, then this is external influence which has obscured your lenses. Simple as that. So yeah, as a preamble, that's what I wanted to just say to develop on what Brother Abdullah said. That what was the strategy applied by this woman? Okay, you're saying that I'm infatuated. See the man Yusuf himself and you will realize. And people who assume or claim or allege or cast aspersions against Islam, that it's not a religion of respect, it's not a religion of dignity, it's not a religion, accuse Islam of misogyny, yet misandry is practiced openly in the world under the guise of putting an end to misogyny, people perpetrate misandry, and that is being prejudiced against men. Islam teaches you recognition for the rights of both men and women. In Islam, there is no, myself and my counterpart, myself and my better half are not in a race. We are here to complement. We're not in a race. I'm not racing my wife and she's not racing me. No gender is racing the other gender. There is no competition. Islam is not about competition. My wife, you're amazing, you're awesome, you're brilliant. You play a role. The Quran says, وَلَا تَتَمَنَّوْا مَا فَضَّلَ اللَّهُ بِهِ بَعْضَكُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ. And don't aspire for the privileges that Allah has given to one gender over another. Allah has given the men certain roles, Allah has given the women certain roles. Allah has given the men certain responsibilities, Allah has given the woman. Once we start the race, this is where unfortunately we have the problem. وَاسْأَلُ اللَّهَ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. And collectively ask Allah Ta'ala for His boon and His grace. So I believe it's so important. Last year when I was flying back from London and boarded the flight, it was close to iftar, been, a frequent flyer with the airline, so obviously they give you that little extra perks and, pamper you a bit because you've been patriotic to the airline. And just about time for iftar, had my meals, sat down, making my dua, looking out to make sure the sun has set. And there's no way you can describe the feeling of iftar but by staying hungry. There's no way. Nothing. Throughout the year, it's supper. In Ramadan, it's iftar. And the ulama say, the life of a believer is the life of fasting. الدنيا كلها شهر صيام للمتقين. And the supreme Eid will be the day of Qiyamah. And the greater chunk of our fast is over. And the real joy will be on the day of Qiyamah. We eat throughout the year, my brother and my sister. But there is not one meal in any month throughout the year where there is a renewed sense of excitement daily for a 5-year-old to a 75-year-old other than the 30 days of Ramadan. Not because the variety is more, but because of moderate deprivation, suddenly there is a renewed sense of excitement daily. So what's the answer to happiness? Indulge more or deprive more? Again, with limitations. It's not my choice and my prerogative. Islam gives you the context. In the world, it's just azadi tumhara haq, barbadi tumhara natija. Azadi tumhara haq, barbadi tumhara natija. No limits, no borders, no parameters, no cutoff point. Do as you feel, vent as you want, say as you want. It's free speech, blurt as you want, say anything, do anything, just run, unbridled horse. It's just mayhem, there's just anarchy, there's just chaos. Islam is so beautiful, regulates, disciplines, controls. This is the time you sleep, this is how you rise, this is how you behave, this is how you, no, that's your mom, don't, hey, that's your dad, no. Adna sadiqahu aqsa abba. The Prophet ﷺ said, before Qiyamah, a time will come, a person will bring his friend close and keep his father distant away. وَتَيْ مَحْرُومَ تَعْلِيمْ سَ مَگَر مُجْھْ کو پرہایا پسینہ حد سے بر کر بھی میرے خاطر بہایا کرا رہتا ہوں شاہوں میں جو اپنا سر اٹھا کر میرے والد نے مجھے آج اس قابل بنایا. وَتَيْ مَحْرُومَ تعلیم سے. My dad was not an educated person. وَتَيْ مَحْرُوم مگر مجھ کو پڑھایا. But he made sure my son must be educated. پسینہ حد سے بر کر بھی میرے خاطر بہایا. He would burn the midnight oil. He left no stone unturned to see how my children could have the best of education. Kara rehta hoon shahon mein jo apna sar uta kar mein. Today I can rub shoulders with the simple and the elite. Credit to the legacy and the values of my parents. May Allah bless them all. Okay, moving on to the topic, because I believe every Saturday, mashallah, this masjid has this theme on stories from the Quran. And my passion is Quran. So when Brother Abdullah phoned me and he said, they're requesting a topic from Quran, I'm like, wow, I was driving. I said, go for it, whichever topic you want to choose. Quran is just what I love, love, love. May Allah give us that bond and rapport and connection with the Quran. One of the clear-cut miracles of the Quran, the Prophet ﷺ says, لا يخلق عن كثرة الرد. Repetition doesn't allow for monotony. This is so clear, apparent, undeniable, irrefutable. Anything else you repeat it, you're boring. It's stale. It's over. Move on. Share something else. But the Quran is divine. You ever heard a person saying, oh, this guy reads great Quran. Okay, Surah Fatiha I heard a lot. Move on. No, you enjoy the Surah Fatiha as well. There's nothing about it that's too much. There's nothing that you don't, anything man-made, it has a lifespan. You look at nature, you can book a hotel at the ocean and the view is stunning. But any man-made building, it's once, it's twice, and then you're done with it. But nature, you never reach a point of satiation or saturation. And this is the speech of Allah. Kalamul muluki mulukul kalam, as the Arabic proverb is. The speech of the king is the king of speeches. So anyway, there's a very profound story. It's in Surah Al-Kahf, we read it. And I know my time is not going to even allow me to get halfway through, but I just hope that I can leave you tantalized and intrigue you. I just need to activate your taste buds. And once your taste buds are activated, you will find the time and the energy to start your journey. Often people tell me, hey, I listen to your talks and you make me feel guilty. I said, great, because I don't want you to feel complacent. If I make you feel complacent, that will result in stagnation. In jurisprudence, they tell you stagnant water becomes impure, but flowing water doesn't become impure. It flushes out the impurity. So if the ummah is going to be complacent, it's going to be stagnant. And if it's going to be stagnant, then it's not going to be productive. So I need to feel guilt so that it can propel me to a greater height. Hey, I need to do better, man. I read Surah Kahf every Friday, but I never bothered to understand. So here Allah speaks about two people. Some of the experts on the text, on the exegesis of the Quran tell us they were two brothers, while others say they were two people without going into the detail of who it was. So there is a principle of commentary which the scholars tell us, abhimu ma abhamahullah. Leave vague what Allah left vague. Leave ambiguous what Allah left ambiguous. Like you don't comprehend the whole story and the narrative of Yusuf alayhi salam, and then you focus in, did Yusuf marry Zulaykha in the end? No, leave vague what Allah left vague. If there was need for that to be focused, now this features in some other narrations, etc., but not authentic. What is important and connected to our guidance, Allah has mentioned that. So focus on that. You're telling your son, don't drive fast. This person was doing top speed and he couldn't negotiate the bend and he capsized. And he's like, what car was it? Did it have good road holding? Did he go for an advanced driving course? No. The message is don't drive fast. You're losing the message. Whether it had good road holding or not, and he had extra, qualifications. No, I'm saying drive slow, be moderate, be law abiding. So anyway, there were these two people, according to the narration of Madarik. It was two brothers. They inherited from their father 8,000 dinars. One took 4,000, the other one took 4,000. And they parted ways. One decided to use his wealth to develop his akhirah, and the other one went pure, exclusive into material things. Islam is all about finding the balance. Sulaiman radiallahu anhu said, the best amongst you are not those who forsake this world in its entirety. Nor are you the best of this ummah who forsake the latter in its entirety. But the best amongst you are those who strike the balance and take from this and secure in the latter. The whole thing of life is balance. Balance is the challenge. It's moderation. And it's of course daunting. Don't bite at the bait of temptation unless you know what is dangling beneath the hook. Don't bite at the bait of temptation. There's a bait that's dangling there. Don't bite at it. First see what's beneath it. And of course the Prophet ﷺ has told us the famous analogy that the scholars give of the duck that came to the fish. And the fisherman had cast his rod, and so it was dangling there, and the fish was about to bite, and the duck came and said, listen, I stay out of water and in water. So don't bite on here. Because if you bite here, there's a guy outside who's going to reel you up. And when he reels you up, within minutes you die. And then he drops you in the trunk of his car. And he takes you home. And then when you get home, you know what? They fry you. They put you in burning oil. They spice you up. And then there's a whole family that sit around and they grind you to pieces. And so the fish tells the duck, okay, wait, give me 5 minutes, I come back. Right? Allama Rumi speaks of many of these analogies, which gives you an explanation and a context. So the fish swims around and comes back and tells the duck, no, you're kidding me, man. There's no rod, there's no hook, there's no trunk, there's no man, there's no oil, there's no spice, there's no teeth, there's no humans. It's just water here. So the duck is, listen, I go out and I come in. I'm telling you what happens outside and you're trying to find it inside. But if you're going to look in the water, you're not going to realize it and find it. And so the fish goes for the bite, excited. And of course, the rest is history. The fisherman's got a fight, it's tiger fishing, and off he goes, and the fight is intense, and he's pulling, and he's reeling, and he's pulling, and he's reeling. And so the Prophet ﷺ says, don't touch interest. This is what's going to happen to you in the grave. Don't go towards immorality. This is what's going to happen to you in akhirah. Don't disobey your parents. This is going to be the repercussions. And you're like, I'm checking around here in the world. Nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. But that is going to happen in another world. And the Prophet of Allah is informed by the Almighty of the happenings of akhirah. In fact, he said, لَوْلَا أَلَّا تَدَافَنُوا لَدَعَوْتُ اللَّهَ أَن يُسْمِعَكُم مِّنْ عَذَابِ الْقَبْرِ. If it wasn't for the fear that you'll stop burying your deceased, I would have asked Allah to expose you to the gravity, the intensity, and the torment of the punishment in the grave. But if Allah were to unveil and unmask and expose you, you wouldn't have courage to bury anyone. مَثَلِي وَمَثَلُكُمْ كَمَثَلِ رَجُلٍ أَوْقَدَ نَارًا. My analogy and your analogy is like a person who's ignited a fire. فَجَعَلَ الْجَنَادِبُ وَالْفَرَاشُ يَقَعْنَ فِيهَا. And so the insects and the moths are going inside. وَهُوَ يَذُبُّهُنَّ عَنْهَا. And he's trying to hold it and divert it and avert it. Don't go, this is flames. Everything that glitters is not gold. This is flames, it will consume you. And I'm holding you by your waist. وَأَنَا آخِذٌ بِحُجْزِكُمْ عَنِ النَّارِ. And I'm pulling you back. Stay away, be careful, be vigilant, monitor. What? وَأَنْتُمْ تَفَلَّتُونَ مِنْ يَدِي. But you just insisting to, escape from my hands and go head on. Islam is such a beautiful religion. This complete harmony, this complete peace, this complete tranquility. If we are in obedience to the Almighty, it will give you balance. Our deen is, Brother Abdullah spoke about it, throughout our history, Muslims have existed with non-Muslims in harmony. Our principle of the deen is لا تظلمون ولا تظلمون لا ضرر ولا ضرار. That's the teaching of our deen. Don't abuse and don't be a victim of abuse. Don't inflict harm and don't receive harm. We raise our voice when blasphemous comments are made against the Prophet ﷺ. We'll mobilize with the same passion if blasphemous comments are made against any prophet. Because that's an insult to the noblest of Allah's creation. Look at the teaching of Islam. Why is interest haram? Why is usury forbidden? Because it's a system to make the wealthy wealthier. BBC had an article some years ago, the world's 1% elite has the same amount of wealth as the world's remaining 99%. With that disparity in wealth, can you imagine the rise of social evils? Jealousy, rancor, hatred, plotting. Can you imagine this disparity? The Quran speaks of an economic system. I'm hopping around and I'll just stop. I didn't even start off with the brother's story here. The Quran speaks of an economic system. And part of the economic model of the Quran is كَيْ لَا يَكُونَ دُولَةً بَيْنَ الْأَغْنِيَاءِ مِنْكُمْ. That the wealth must be in circulation so that it does not become an exclusive commodity of the wealthy and the affluent amongst you. It's the unequivocal declaration of the Quran that Allah will sustain every soul. But every day people are dying out of hunger. How do you reconcile the declaration of the Quran against people dying with hunger? Here the Quran stands in chapter 11, opening verses of the 12th juz. وَمَا مِن دَابَّةٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَّا عَلَى اللَّهِ رِزْقُهَا وَيَعْلَمُ مُسْتَقَرَّهَا وَمُسْتَوْدَعَهَا. You must see in Tafsir al-Kashaf what mustaqar and mustawda' is mentioned here. Mustaqar means your permanent base. Mustawda' means your temporary base. And the connotation between the two is Allah is responsible to sustain. And He knows where you base temporarily and where you base permanently. So if you relocate, He sends your food to you at that place. And the answer given by the scholars is that Allah has put a system in place. He's given some people surplus wealth. And then He's tasked them to donate that wealth, by virtue of which it will take care of those that have less and don't have adequate. And so the system of Allah is impeccable, infallible, flawless. But it is the human race that has faulted in the distribution, and hence they are liable, and there is no blame on the being of the Almighty. A father leaves his house and says, listen my son, you the eldest, please, here's the cards, here's the money, here's the cash. Take care of this here, make sure your brother's fees are paid, make sure your mom's medical expenses are covered, make sure this is done, please, please, please. I leave you in charge, I appoint you, I assign you. This person, unfortunately, the son, you know, as they say in English, some people only grow old, they don't grow wise. I read a strange quote the other day. I met a 15-year adult and a 35-year-old boy. I met a 15-year-old adult. Yeah, a 15-year-old adult, because he's matured, he's grown up. And someone is 35. It's just there. And he doesn't spend the money. Who do you blame, the father or do you blame the son? So that is why in the Quran, where Allah tells you to donate, and Brother Abdullah will make an appeal. The Quran says, وَفِي أَمْوَالِهِمْ حَقٌّ مَعْلُومٌ لِلسَّائِلِ وَالْمَحْرُومِ. That the pious, when they donate and they contribute, they say to the recipient, not take from my money, Allah left your share with me. In other words, this is not mine, this is yours, but Allah kept it with me. وَفِي أَمْوَالِهِمْ حَقٌّ مَعْلُومٌ وَفِي أَمْوَالِهِمْ حَقٌّ مَعْلُومٌ لِلسَّائِلِ وَالْمَحْرُومِ. In fact, do you know, Islam has told us, we are not only responsible to give those who ask. Islam has told us it's our duty to empower and assist those needy, vulnerable individuals who are living in dire poverty and abject penury. But due to self-restraint, they would never stretch their hand. But if you look closer, you will recognize the signs of absolute desperation. لِلْفُقَرَاءِ الَّذِينَ أُحْصِرُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ لَا يَسْتَطِيعُونَ ضَرْبًا فِي الْأَرْضِ يَحْسَبُهُمُ الْجَاهِلُ أَغْنِيَاءَ مِنَ التَّعَفُّفِ تَعْرِفُهُمْ بِسِيمَاهُمْ لَا يَسْأَلُونَ النَّاسَ إِلْحَافًا. My word. What time do I start? End, sorry. 35? That's it? And I haven't started? We're still taxing. I'm not even airborne. And the control room is telling me to land, abort the flight. And you're supposed to be part of me, Hamza. Okay, I'll leave it. Anyway, let me just go through the translation. My heart cries wherever I go. Allah knows my passion and my hurt and my pain. That the ummah, leave the one who doesn't believe in the Quran. You and I who know this is the Quran, it's absolute. There are more times than I can count that when I'm reading the Quran and I'm just reflecting, tears just well up in my eyes. And I say, oh my Allah, where do I begin to thank you for blessing me with Iman and allowing me to be a humble, modest, simple, mediocre individual who endeavors to try to understand the Quran. It's just ineffable. Okay, so there were these two brothers. وَضْرِبْ لَهُمْ مَثَلَ الرَّجُلَيْنِ. Let me just give you a translation and run through it. So there were two brothers. The Quran says we gave wealth to one of them. حَفَفْنَاهُمَا بِنَخْلٍ. We then bordered it, surrounded it with date palms. حَفَفْنَاهُمَا بِنَخْلٍ وَجَعَلْنَا بَيْنَهُمَا زَرْعًا, and in between there's date palms and the vineyards, there was this tillage and there was this farming. So two brothers, they parted, they had 8,000 dinars, one took 4,000, the other one took 4,000. One said, no, I'm using my money for akhirah, I want to invest it in akhirah. Because that's it. Yesterday I mentioned the quote in Urdu, बेलिबास आए थे इस दुनिया में गालिब, एक कफन के लिए इतना सफर कर गए. बेलिबास आए थे इस दुनिया में गालिब, एक कफन के लिए इतना सफर कर गए. You came nude, you living with 2 pieces of cloth. Was there so much movement in the world for 2 pieces of cloth? وَأَلْبَسُونِ ثِيَابًا لَا كِمَامَ لَهَا وَصَلُّوا صَلَاةً لَا رُكُوعَ لَهَا وَلَا سُجُودَ لَعَلَّ اللَّهَ يَرْحَمُنِي. And they cover me with a cloth which has no sleeves. And I was so meticulous. I was very well attired. I would go to my tailor. I was very particular about myself. Suddenly they wrap me in 2 cloths. They don't give any consideration to my choice, to my color, to my preference. And then they offer a prayer devoid of bowing and prostration, because that's the ritual in which you bid farewell to the deceased, hoping that the Almighty showers my soul with His mercy. So it was surrounded. كِلْتَ الْجَنَّتَيْنِ آتَتْ أُكُلَهَا. Both these gardens gave off its produce. وَلَمْ تَظْلِمْ مِنْهُ شَيْئًا. And there was no shortage in it. وَفَجَّرْنَا خِلَالَهُمَا نَهَرًا. And there was this stream and this brook and this water flowing. وَدَخَلَ جَنَّتَهُ وَهُوَ ظَالِمٌ لِنَفْسِهِ. The one who had muscle and he had clout and he had economic stability and he was anchored financially. So one day he walks into his garden and he walks into his orchard. And now it's appealing to the eye. And sometimes you verbally say it, and sometimes you say it with your body language. And may Allah save me, may Allah save you. Your body language needs to be very careful. Because, sometimes you just give off that little image in your attitude, in your approach, or you talk to your employee or someone who doesn't have that same economic muscle in a very condescending way. And that could be the beginning of your fall. And so this man walked in. I'll give you a translation. He walked into his garden. And the Quran says, while he was an oppressor to himself, meaning his wrong was harming himself. Then he looked at his garden and his orchard and his produce, and he said, I doubt this thing can perish. मेरे ख्याल में ये कभी फना तो नहीं हो सकता है. मेरे ख्याल में. Sometimes आदमी ज़बान क़ाल से नहीं बोलता है, ज़बान हाल से बोलता है. His language, his attitude, his body, his expression, his facial expressions. Like I'm anchored, man. Even Malakul Maut is on hold. That's the kind of language he throws out. Every man who's sworn into office, he thinks I'm inaugurated here for life. Listen, man, look at the guy before you, how he was sacked and how he was impeached. What gives you this audacity and arrogance to think, you're in office for good? But nobody learns from his predecessor. So he said, ما أظن أن تبيد هذه أبدا. Verbatim translation, I don't think this can perish. وما أظن الساعة قائمة. And pride begets arrogance. Humility begets humility. One leads to another. And also, I've got my doubts on this whole concept of Qiyamah. And if perchance there happens to be something like resurrection, I'm sure I'll be well covered there. Because in this temporary world, if I got so much, I'll be much better off there. And so then he meets with his brother, who was the pious, the modest, the humble, who decided to invest his wealth. I'm just giving you a synopsis. So his brother tells him, وَلَوْلَا إِذْ دَخَلْتَ جَنَّتَكَ قُلْتَ مَا شَاءَ اللَّهِ. That, listen, my brother, you got what you got, and I'm happy for you, and I don't have a problem with your wealth. Good luck. You drive in upper end, your children go to high-end schools, you live in an opulent life, you live in a flamboyant life, you're the envy of many. Good luck. But I do have an issue with your attitude. Not with your wealth, with your attitude. You can own what you have. You don't have to be so proud, haughty, and arrogant. So these are the words. When you entered what Allah gave you, couldn't you have some say, this is all what Allah gave me. Allah's been so kind. This is the favor of Allah. So the ulama say, the root of arrogance, or the definition of arrogance, is you consider yourself deserving for what you have. And the root of humility is, I don't deserve anything, Allah. I don't deserve anything. I don't deserve anything. What have I done to be a candidate for what I have? Nothing. It's your sheer grace. That's gratitude. That's humility. May Allah grant us that. Allah, I don't deserve this. Allah, I don't deserve this at any level. What can I claim? So he said to him, وَلَوْلَا إِذْ دَخَلْتَ جَنَّتَكَ قُلْتَ مَا شَاءَ اللَّهِ. When you entered, couldn't you praise Allah? Just give me a few minutes, I'm going to end now. And then he said, إِن تَرَنِي أَنَا أَقَلَّ مِنْكَ مَالًا وَوَلَدًا. You were raving, you were boasting, you were bragging, you were trumpeting, you were pontifying yourself, you were, you know what, how great, how amazing, how wonderful. Okay, I might have less, but listen to me, I'm telling you, فَعَسَى رَبِّي أَن يُؤْتِيَنِي خَيْرًا مِنْ جَنَّتِكَ. I have great hope. Allah will turn my day, and Allah will reverse the table. And I'm optimistic that Allah will give me better than you, and who knows, what you have might become exposed to some divine ruin. The very brothers who dropped Yusuf alayhi salam in the well came with that same hands and that begging bowl to that same Yusuf, asking him for money. إن الأيدي التي ألقت يوسف في البئر نفس الأيدي التي امتدت إليه ذليلة. The hands that dropped Yusuf in the well were the same hands with the passage of time that came to him when he was sitting on the throne, and they said, يا أيها العزيز مسنا وأهلنا الضر وجئنا ببضاعة مزجاة. Today you can have, and tomorrow you find your child asking zakat from someone else. So Allah can reverse things. This world is fickle. Nobody is anchored tenants. Everybody are here in a passing phase, and it's transitory. فَعَسَى رَبِّي أَن يُؤْتِيَنِي. I just run you through the translation. فَعَسَى رَبِّي أَن يُؤْتِيَنِي خَيْرًا مِنْ جَنَّتِكَ وَيُرْسِلَ عَلَيْهَا حُسْبَانًا مِنَ السَّمَاءِ. Allah can send down something divine, and it will just wipe out whatever you have. أَوْ يُصْبِحَ مَاؤُهَا غَوْرًا. You know this river here, and this water here, and this cascade here, and this canal that you have, Allah can cause this water to sink deep down. That's the verse. أَوْ يُصْبِحَ مَاؤُهَا غَوْرًا. So deep down that it's just dried up. I mean, you walk in, the Quran says Allah has the ability to seize you in your movement. أَوْ يَأْخُذَهُمْ فِي تَقَلُّبِهِمْ. What happened? We were sitting, it was a Saturday night, we were having a barbecue, and suddenly he just had a sharp pain. Ouch, ouch. Then we thought, no, maybe it's just some reflux, IBS. So we just gave him some Nexipraise or Nexium or some Gaviscon or something like this. And then the pain was excruciating and it was intense. Oh, we went there. Oops, we realized that, you know what? He had a triple heart attack, and then we had to get in a cardiothoracic surgery. Oh, يَأْخُذَهُمْ فِي تَقَلُّبِهِمْ. Allah says, I can seize you in your to and fro movement. فَمَا هُمْ بِمُعْجِزِينَ. I can incapacitate you, but nobody can paralyze me. Life is so fickle. It just suddenly, at any moment, it just changes. So Allah can strike this or cause the water to go deep down, and you will have no access to it. And exactly this is what happened. The Quran concludes this discussion. وَأُحِيطَ بِثَمَرِهِ. His produce was surrounded by a divine torment. فَأَصْبَحَ يُقَلِّبُ كَفَّيْهِ. Verbatim translation. Urdu mein kehte hain, kaffe afsos malta raha. Kaffe afsos malta raha. Then he was just rotating the palms of regret and remorse. Oh, oops. How many people have lost their parents? I know of a man who had a good empire, and things just started going down. And everything just fell. And he couldn't make sense of how it collapsed. And finally, he made dua, Allah, let me understand. And in the dream, he was told that during your heydays and your glory days, often your mom used to call you and used to tell her, Mommy, just wait, I'm busy, not now, end of the month, I'll let you know, give me time, I'm in my practice, I'm in my office, you can't phone me now. And that brought your end. And then he took me to the grave of his mom, and he just cried, and he held me there. And the way he cried, I sobbed. And he said, gosh, I wish the grave can open and I can just ask my mom one time, Ma, forgive me. Ma, forgive me. It's too much. The way he cried, left me crying till today I cry. The Arabic proverb is very profound. You have to understand it in Arabic because it's Arabic semantics in it. He said, the poet says, كلما أريد أن أكتب عن أمي وجدت نفسي أمي. I don't know how to translate this. كلما أريد أن أكتب عن أمي وجدت نفسي أمي. So means mother. And also means unlettered, meaning like how you were born. ليس علينا في الأميين السبيل الرسول النبي الأمي. So the poet says, every time I want to pick up my pen, as articulate, as brilliant as I am, and I want to write the accolades of my mom, but as soon as I lift my pen to write about my mom, I realize I'm so uneducated, illiterate, because where do I begin? What do I say? So yeah, a divine torment came and struck it. And then, أَصْبَحَ يُقَلِّبُ كَفَّيْهِ عَلَى مَا أَنْفَقَ فِيهَا. He was regretting and lamenting. And then the Quran says, he was a man with muscle. He was a man with clout. He's got contact. You know, oh no, terror, 1 minute. I'll call. See, you know, sometimes you're sitting with a guy and then the celebrity phones. Now he lets the phone ring long and then he wants everybody to see who's calling. And then the Quran says, as proud and as arrogant and as haughty as you are, when the azab comes, you stand, you run, you flee. فَلَمَّا أَحَسُّوا بَأْسَنَا إِذَا هُمْ مِنْهَا يَرْكُضُونَ لا تركضوا لا تركضوا وارجعوا إلى ما أترفتم فيه ولئن مستهم نفحة من عذاب ربك ليقولن يا ويلنا. Then as soon as they perceive azab is coming, they flee, they run. Now at this point, you're a person who's got influence. You can call, you can mobilize, you can be airlifted, you can have a direct to this office, you can call the, وَلَمْ تَكُنْ لَهُ فِئَةٌ يَنْصُرُونَهُ مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ. There was no army that could come to his rescue. وَمَا كَانَ مُنْتَصِرًا. And he could not challenge the angel of death. هُنَالِكَ الْوَلَايَةُ لِلَّهِ الْحَقِّ. At his death, did he realize that absolute power and sovereignty only belongs to Allah. We have one virtue over the dead, and that is we can still worship Allah. The dead are gone. They've been saved from all the fitna. We can still contribute. We can still raise our voice. We can still make zikr. We can still make sajda. Let's use the moment. Between the regret of yesterday and the hope of tomorrow lies the opportunity of today.